And with what you're doing now, how did that journey happen? And you mentioned pivoting, I think, more than once as like when you start your own ideas, you probably won't finish with that idea.
Yeah.
Could you tell us that journey?
Yeah, I mean, my sense was when there's transformational change happening at a time like this, there are it's almost hard to pick what you want to work on because there's so many opportunities out there. And so my general approach to this is okay, then if that's the scenario, go to areas where there's just biggest mass market available. So like your biggest, total addressable market out there and just start there and find something in a really big market. It doesn't matter what necessarily what it is specifically that you're working on, just that it has a large market because your first couple iterations are probably not going to be the thing. But if there's a big enough market, you can keep tinkering and there's enough customers to like throw a new idea at, right? And you're kind of at least constrained to a similar customer base. You're just tossing different ideas around to those customers to see what hits. Then there's always growth beyond that. If you're going to something really small where there's only 10 customers and you miss the first few times, you can't go back to the same customer. They're like, no, 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 wait, I got something new for you, right? You kind of burn your bridges at some point of them giving you the attention that you need to validate. So I kind of went out to a really big market, which was, hey, commerce is going to be upended in many
Mm.
different ways. Let me go after biggest cost centers in commerce, which, is content creation and photography. And I personally love photography. I'm a very visual person. And so I was like, this actually marries a lot of things that I like. Like I'm very motivated by solving this problem. And I love tinkering with stable diffusion. And so started out with trying to build a product photography tool that would offload a lot of work that retailers needed to do. Actually, it was mainly for D2C brands. It's much smaller and built a product. I missed the AI wave, like the hype wave that came through, and tons of early kind of competitors were out there, everyone trying to get attention and realized very quickly that the type of customers and the expectations that they had of what AI should or could be doing was very mismatched with where the research was at the time. And which was fine. But I think as I used that to then dig deeper into their business problems, I was like, oh man, none of these customers have a lot of money. They're all looking for something super cheap and free, and doing image generation inference is not cheap. And I was trying to run my own infra on AWS. And I was like, oh man, I need to get to a certain level of scale until this thing even makes sense. And that itself is a whole ballgame to deal with. And very quickly, I was like, okay, this is not the market. And so I have to figure out either a different product or I have to figure out how to go up market into the type of customers who have a lot more money to spend. If I'm having a hard time convincing people to sign up for a $20 a month subscription, like that's going to be tough to build a business around, especially with the cost of inference. And this was 2 years ago, right? It was much, much more expensive than it is now. And I kind of leveraged that first prototype to go out and just talk to people because it was a hot topic and it's very, again, easy to explain the value of it. But as soon as I would get them on the call, I'd swap the conversation to be like, let's forget about photography. What other problems are you dealing with today? And explored a lot of those different areas. And obviously, a lot of them were talking to me because I was at the frontier of AI and they were trying to figure out AI in their
Mm.
own business. And it led into a lot of interesting, I would say it was a good culmination of, we had a couple dozen different calls with customers that all ended in, I really want to use this AI thing, but every time I've put what we need to do in ChatGPT, it's just like, it's garbage and I have to do more work cleaning it up and it doesn't actually save me any time. And I think I was able to bridge that gap by understanding what really AI could do and where, the boundaries of OpenAI and ChatGPT are and saying, okay, this is interesting. So like, why didn't it work for you? Digging into the whys. Where that ended up with was essentially realizing that, hey, they're working at a much larger data scale, which is they're not feeding in one piece of data at a time and trying to analyze and optimize that for the prompt that they're giving ChatGPT. They're dumping in, here's 150 products and go and run this analysis for me. And then it's garbage in, garbage out because they don't have actually enriched data that they're feeding ChatGPT with, and they're expecting it to do magic for them. And again, those mismatched expectations. And what we focused on was saying, okay, the reason why it's not working for them is actually that they're feeding it really bad data. So can we actually go and clean up data for them? And then we realized, okay, we don't really have context around the data, and trying to do that is like a massive data science problem that I'm not, again, qualified to really jump into. But if you step even further back, where is the source of data coming from? Because if we can attack at the source of ingestion, we have the context of like, where did the data come from? Is there any supplementary data that maybe wasn't ingested that's causing this or whatever other reasons? And if we can then enrich the data, then the downstream workflows become very simple to do because the models are getting better, reasoning capabilities are getting better, it's getting cheaper to do inference, all that sort of stuff. Everything becomes easy, but we need to help them actually get clean and rich data into their systems. And so that is essentially what ended up being the genesis of what MerchKit is now.
I started this podcast because I wanted to stand at the gate of businesses using AI and see what separated hype from lasting impact. Back when cities had walls, you had to go into the city to do business at the market. So, if you wanted to talk to someone, you waited by the gate until they came in or came out. Do that enough times and you could talk to everyone. That's what I want to do. Stand at the gate of people doing business with AI and talk to them, see what they do and why they do it. If you know someone that's making an impact in the world of AI, would you connect them with me? You can find me on LinkedIn or shoot me an email at daniel@manary.house. That's Daniel@MANARY.HAUS. Thanks for listening.